Imagine a tired young man walking home through cold Chicago streets. His editor fired him. They said Walt Disney had no creativity, no imagination, no future. Years later, children across the world would dream inside worlds he created. How did one rejected artist change entertainment forever? Let us discover together. Walt Disney was born in Chicago in 1901. His family was not rich. His father, Elias Disney, worked very hard every day. He was strict, serious, and often difficult. Walt loved him, but feared him too. His mother, Flora, was warmer and softer. She protected the children when life became heavy. Walt needed that kindness. The world around him often felt cold. When Walt was still young, the family moved often. Chicago, Missouri, Kansas City, nothing stayed stable for long. Money problems followed them everywhere. Some nights felt hopeful. Other nights felt dark. It was a quiet morning in Missouri, 1906. Walt stepped outside their small farmhouse alone. He watched birds moving across the bright sky. He studied horses in nearby fields. He noticed every color, every movement, every tiny detail. Animals became his first teachers. Walt loved drawing more than almost anything. He drew on paper scraps. He drew in notebooks. He even drew on walls sometimes. His father hated this habit. Paper cost money. Time cost money too. But Walt could not stop imagining stories. Even then, he saw the world differently. Ordinary things felt magical to him. A mouse was never only a mouse. A train was never only a train. Walt's childhood was not easy or gentle. His father demanded constant work from the children. Before sunrise, Walt delivered newspapers through freezing streets. Snow covered his shoes. Cold wind hurt his face. Still, he kept walking. He was only a boy. It was a gray morning in Kansas City, 1912. Walt carried heavy newspaper bags beside his brother Roy. Most children still slept warmly inside their homes. Walt worked silently in darkness. Some mornings he felt exhausted, some mornings he felt angry, some mornings he simply felt empty. But difficult years changed him deeply. Walt learned discipline very early. He learned patience too. Most importantly, he learned how ordinary people lived. Poor workers, tired mothers, lonely children. He remembered their faces forever. School felt different for Walt. He enjoyed reading and drawing more than strict lessons. Teachers noticed his imagination quickly. But imagination did not always bring success. Some classmates laughed at his strange ideas. Others thought he dreamed too much. Walt often escaped into stories inside his own mind. His family life carried both love and tension. Elias Disney wanted practical children. Walt wanted adventure. Elias wanted control. Walt wanted freedom. They respected each other, but rarely understood each other. This conflict shaped Walt forever. One part of him craved security. Another part wanted impossible dreams. These two sides fought inside him for many years. Walt slowly discovered something powerful inside himself. He could make people feel wonder, not with money, not with speeches, with stories. It was a warm afternoon in Chicago, 1917. Walt sat quietly in an art classroom after lessons ended. Most students already left. Sunlight crossed the wooden floor softly. Walt continued sketching faces, animals, and strange little characters. His teacher stopped beside him silently. The teacher studied Walt's drawings for several moments. Then he smiled gently. He told Walt something important. "You see movement inside still pictures." Those words stayed with Walt forever. Other people drew objects. Walt drew emotions: fear, joy, curiosity, hope. His pictures seemed alive already. Walt also loved performance deeply. He acted in small school plays. He copied famous actors. He practiced funny movements before mirrors. He wanted audiences to laugh. He wanted them to feel connected. This became his true gift. Walt understood emotion naturally. He knew sadness needed warmth beside it. He knew fear needed courage afterward. He knew people carried secret loneliness everywhere. Stories could reach that loneliness. But talent alone was not enough. Walt still lacked experience. He lacked money. He lacked direction. Most dangerous of all, he sometimes believed imagination could solve everything. Life would soon teach him harder lessons. As Walt grew older, the world around him became harsher. Dreams felt dangerous during those years. America was changing quickly. Businesses failed often. Competition was everywhere. Many people only cared about survival. Art seemed useless to them. It was a cold evening in Kansas City, 1922. Walt worked inside a small animation studio with several young artists. The room smelled of ink and dust. Old lights flickered above their desks. Everyone worked late into the night. Walt believed success was finally near, but the company struggled constantly. Bills arrived faster than money. Equipment broke often. Investors lost patience quickly. Some workers quietly left. Others stopped believing in Walt's ideas. Still, Walt pushed harder every day. He slept little. He ate poorly. He borrowed money repeatedly. Sometimes he sounded hopeful, sometimes desperate, sometimes completely exhausted. Then the studio collapsed. Walt lost almost everything. He felt embarrassed deeply. Friends moved forward with stable careers. Walt carried failure instead. He was young, poor, and uncertain. Worse, some people now saw him as unrealistic. One editor even criticized his imagination directly. The editor claimed Walt lacked creativity completely. Imagine hearing those words after years of sacrifice. Walt had talent. Walt had ambition. But ambition without success can feel humiliating. For the first time, real fear entered his heart. Walt Disney reached a moment when everything seemed broken. His first studio had failed completely. Money disappeared quickly. Hope disappeared too. It was a quiet night in 1923 in Kansas City. Walt sat alone inside a nearly empty office. Papers covered the floor. Unpaid bills rested beside cold coffee cups. Outside, rain touched the windows softly. Inside, silence felt heavy. Walt looked around the dark room slowly. This had once been his dream. Now it looked like ruins. He felt ashamed. He had promised success to friends and workers. Many trusted him completely. Now they had nothing. Walt blamed himself deeply for their suffering. Some people advised him to stop chasing impossible ideas. Others suggested safer jobs, stable jobs, ordinary jobs. Part of Walt wanted that safety badly. He was tired of struggling constantly, tired of rejection, tired of hearing no again and again. He needed money. He needed direction. He needed peace. But another part of him refused surrender. That inner conflict became painful. Walt packed one small suitcase quietly. He carried a few clothes, some drawings, and almost no money. Then he boarded a train toward Hollywood. He did not travel like a future legend. He traveled like a defeated young man searching desperately for another chance. During that long journey, Walt stared through train windows for hours. Dark fields passed silently outside. Nobody knew his name. Nobody expected greatness from him. At that moment, failure seemed stronger than imagination. It was a bright afternoon in Hollywood, California, 1928. Walt Disney sat inside a small train compartment, traveling home after terrible business meetings in New York. His body felt exhausted. His mind felt empty. He had just lost his most successful cartoon character. A distributor tricked Walt cruelly. The company stole Walt's character, Oswald the Rabbit. Worse, many animators left Walt's studio too. They followed the money instead. Walt suddenly faced disaster again. The train moved loudly through the American countryside. Metal wheels screamed against the tracks. Smoke filled the air outside. Walt sat silently beside his wife, Lillian. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then Walt pulled out paper slowly. He began sketching small circles first, then ears, then eyes. A tiny nose, simple shapes, soft movements. a cheerful smile. Lillian watched quietly. Walt studied the drawing carefully. The little character looked playful, brave, friendly, alive somehow. Walt whispered softly, "Maybe a mouse." The train shook harder suddenly. Walt kept drawing. More expressions appeared: surprise, fear, joy, curiosity. The mouse seemed almost human now. Outside, darkness slowly covered the fields. Inside, something extraordinary was happening. Walt forgot his anger completely. He forgot betrayal. He forgot fear. His imagination returned powerfully, almost like fire returning after cold winter months. Then came the important moment. Walt looked directly at the drawing and smiled. Not a weak smile, not a polite smile, a real one. He turned toward Lillian carefully. "Mickey," he said quietly. That name changed entertainment forever. The mouse later became Mickey Mouse. Children loved him immediately. Adults loved him too. Mickey felt hopeful during difficult years, funny during painful times, simple but unforgettable. One small drawing rescued Walt from despair. One tiny character carried him toward history. That is why this moment matters so deeply, my friends. Great changes sometimes begin quietly. Not with armies, not with governments, only with one tired human being holding a pencil inside a moving train. After Mickey Mouse appeared, Walt Disney's life changed quickly. Success finally arrived. But success also brought pressure. It was a warm evening in New York City, 1928. Crowds filled a theater for the first public Mickey Mouse cartoon. With sound, people laughed loudly during the film. Some children pointed excitedly at the screen. Others clapped happily beside their parents. Walt watched nervously from the back. Then something beautiful happened. The audience connected emotionally with Mickey. They did not see only a cartoon. They saw courage, playfulness, optimism. During difficult economic years, people desperately needed joy. Walt understood this perfectly. Soon, Disney cartoons became famous across America. The studio grew larger every year. New artists arrived constantly. Walt pushed everyone toward impossible standards. Better movement, better music, better emotion. He demanded excellence from everybody. Sometimes workers admired him deeply. Sometimes they feared him. Walt changed ideas suddenly. He criticized mistakes sharply. Long work hours became normal inside the studio. But Walt kept dreaming bigger. He wanted animation to become real art. Many people laughed at this ambition. They believed cartoons were only short entertainment for children. Walt disagreed completely. Then he made an enormous decision. He would create the world's first full animated movie. Friends warned him constantly. Business experts called the idea foolish. Some people even named the project Disney's folly. But Walt moved forward anyway. He risked everything again. Money, reputation, his future. Just like before, imagination demanded courage. It was a cold evening in Los Angeles, 1937. Bright lights surrounded the Grand Theater for the premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Elegant cars arrived slowly outside. Famous actors entered smiling. Reporters shouted questions loudly. But Walt Disney felt terrified. He had spent years creating this movie. The project consumed enormous money and energy. Animators worked until exhaustion. Walt borrowed heavily to continue production. If the film failed, the studio could collapse completely. Many people still expected disaster. Inside the theater, the lights dimmed softly. Silence spread across the audience. Then the film began. At first, people watched carefully, almost suspiciously. They expected simple cartoons, childish jokes, nothing more. But slowly, emotions changed. The audience laughed warmly with the dwarfs. They feared the dark forest deeply. Some viewers even cried quietly during painful scenes. Walt noticed everything. He sat frozen in his chair. Scene after scene passed across the screen beautifully. Hand-painted colors glowed softly inside the dark theater. Music filled the room like magic. Characters moved with astonishing life. Then came the ending. For one long moment, nobody reacted. Walt's heart pounded painfully. Then applause exploded everywhere. People stood immediately, clapping, smiling, cheering loudly. Some audience members wiped tears from their faces. Others embraced each other happily. Walt lowered his head silently. He almost could not believe it. Years earlier, one editor claimed Walt lacked creativity. Now Hollywood celebrated a masterpiece created entirely from imagination. That night changed animation forever. Cartoons were no longer small entertainment. They became cinema, art, emotion, human storytelling. Walt achieved something extraordinary because he refused ordinary limits. But success carried hidden costs too. Fame grew larger every year. Pressure grew heavier too. Walt built magical worlds for millions. Yet inside himself, peace became harder to find. Success brought Walt Disney enormous power and influence, but it also changed him deeply. The cheerful dreamer slowly became a demanding leader. It was a gray afternoon in California, 1941. Angry workers gathered outside Disney studios carrying protest signs. Rain touched the sidewalks lightly. Reporters watched closely nearby. The studio faced a painful strike. Many animators felt exhausted and underpaid. Some believed Walt ignored their struggles completely. Others said he controlled too much personally. Walt felt shocked by the anger around him. He saw the studio as family. The workers saw a business. That difference caused deep wounds. Walt took criticism personally, very personally. He felt betrayed again, much like earlier years. Friends stopped speaking. Trust disappeared quickly. The strike hurt him emotionally for a long time. Meanwhile, the world changed around him. New technology appeared constantly. Competition increased. Walt pushed toward larger dreams again. Television, theme parks, bigger films, bigger risks. Then came Disneyland. Many experts predicted failure once more. Some investors feared disaster. But Walt imagined something different. A place where parents and children shared wonder together. And again, he succeeded. Still, success never removed loneliness completely. Walt worked endlessly. He worried endlessly too. He chased perfection constantly. Sometimes he inspired people beautifully. Sometimes he exhausted them deeply. Near the end of his life, Walt seemed transformed. Not softer exactly, but more reflective. More aware that dreams carry both joy and sacrifice. Great vision often demands a heavy personal price. Walt Disney's influence spread across the world. His ideas did not stay in one studio. They became part of global culture. It was a bright morning in Orlando, Florida, 1955. Disneyland opened its gates for the first time. Families walked inside slowly. Children looked around with wide eyes. Everything felt new, clean, and full of wonder. Walt stood quietly among the crowd. He watched people smile. He watched parents holding children's hands. He saw laughter everywhere. For him, this moment felt like a dream finally made real. Disneyland was more than a park. It was a world of imagination, a place where stories lived outside screens, a place where hope felt physical and real. Soon, Disney films continued growing. Cinderella, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty. Each story carried emotion, music, and simple truth. Children around the world grew up with these characters. Walt also changed animation forever. He proved cartoons could hold deep emotion. They could teach kindness. They could show fear, courage, and love. His company became a symbol of imagination itself. But Walt's health slowly weakened in later years. Years of stress and constant work affected him deeply. Still, he kept planning future projects until the end. Even near his final days, he imagined new worlds. That is his legacy. Not only films or parks, but belief. Belief that imagination can become reality. Walt Disney was not perfect. He was known as a demanding boss. Many workers felt pressure under his leadership. Some felt unheard during long years of work. People said he could be strict and distant. Some even called him controlling. They believed he cared more about results than feelings. Maybe this is partly true. Walt carried deep fear of failure inside him. That fear shaped how he worked with others. He pushed people hard because he pushed himself even harder. He wanted perfection in every frame, every sound, every story. But perfection came with cost, long hours, stress, emotional distance. Not everyone could live in that world. Still, many who worked with him also saw kindness, small moments of care, quiet encouragement, unexpected praise after hard work. Walt was not one simple person. He was many things at once: ambitious, tired, brilliant, insecure, visionary, human. Nobody is perfect. Walt Disney was human, and that is part of what makes his story so powerful. He did not build dreams without struggle. He built them while carrying his own inner battles. Walt Disney's life teaches simple truths. Big dreams always begin small, often in failure, often in doubt, often in silence that feels empty. It was a quiet evening in Los Angeles, 1960. Walt worked late again, thinking about future ideas, new parks, new films, new worlds for families to enjoy together. He never stopped imagining. One lesson from his life is clear: failure is not the end. Walt lost studios. He lost money. He lost trust. But he kept moving forward again and again. Another lesson is about imagination. Imagination is not only for children. It is a force that can change industries, cities, even entire cultures. And there is one more truth. Dreams need courage. Not perfect courage, simple courage. The courage to try again after rejection. Walt Disney showed that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary places, but only if a person keeps walking forward. He was not always understood. He was not always supported. But he continued anyway. And that anyway changed the world. So when life feels heavy, remember his path. Small steps still matter. Quiet effort still matters. Your story is still forming, right now. Walt Disney never gave up, even when everything felt completely lost, even when people doubted his dreams. You are doing the same right now. Learning a language is not easy. Some days feel slow and difficult. But you are still here today. You are listening and learning carefully. That is real progress every day. Walt Disney started with small drawings. He built dreams step by step. You are building your English skills, step by step, word by word. Every story you hear matters deeply. Every new word gives you strength. You are not the same anymore. You are growing quietly every day. Keep going even when it feels hard. Walt believed small ideas can change everything. You can also change your future. Do not stop your learning journey. Your effort will become your success. Keep listening and keep understanding slowly. English opens doors you cannot see yet. You are closer than you think. If this story touched you, please like this video and subscribe to Story World English for more. Leave a comment below. Tell me which part of Walt Disney's story moved you the most. He built dreams from nothing. So can you.